Oh, I just love the first day of school, don't you?
It's the biggest thrill of my life.
Whether your high school experience was a delight or a disaster, everyone could agree that high school got pretty stressful at times. Essentially, high school is an institution built to prepare teenagers for inevitable adulthood. While enduring class projects, field trips, teams, clubs, and formal events, teenagers are directly exposed to societal traditions and practices. Most importantly, high school students learn how others see them and what's expected of them. These things affect them in ways that largely shape and define the near future of adulthood. Looking at the high school films from the 1950s to the 1970s, the dominant subject matters consist of cool coaching, bullying, and authority generational conflict. These following subject matters exist in a unique way, influencing the young characters within these films while being able to resonate with the young audiences who identify and relate to these characters, thus getting one step closer to the true understanding of the cinematic high school experience. The selected films we will be looking at are Nicholas Ray's Rebel Without a Cause, Randall Kleiser's Grease, James Clavell's To Serve with Love, Cooley High for Michael Schultz, Brian De Palma's Carrie, and Amy Heckerling's Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Now this is most important, Raz. It comes down to making out. Whenever possible, put on side one of Led Zeppelin 4.
Cool coaching is when one individual gives advice to another in order for them to be socially accepted. Throughout all of the films, the character's decision-making is heavily influenced by the advice of other peers. The thought is, if one is to listen to their peers' advice on what it is to be cool, then one will be accepted and not be an outsider. The film Fast Times at Ridgemont High follows Mark Ratner and Stacey Hamilton as they try to unsuccessfully date and maybe even have sex. Both their best friends, Mike Damone and Linda Barrett, are giving them constant advice on what to do in the relationship as it moves forward.
Well, you tell me, Mike, what should I do?
This is what you do. Start from the minute you walk into biology, Raz. I mean, don't just walk in. You move across the room. And you don't talk to her. You use your face. You use your body. You use everything.
Ratner and Stacey follow their friends' advice constantly, and the audience watches the roller coaster ride of high school relationships. In the 1976 film Carrie, Carrie White is influenced by her mom and children at school. Both her mother and her peers do not accept her, making Carrie an outcast. She seeks refuge and advice from Coach Collins, the girls' gym teacher at her school. Collins gives Carrie advice to go to the school prom, joining all the other students at the end of the year. Carrie is at first reluctant, but deeply hopes for the chance to be finally accepted.
Hey, Carrie, I want to talk to you. It's about this attitude you have about yourself. I mean, you're always walking around, with your hair down, all moping around. Carrie, come here, you big silly. I want you to look at yourself. Would you look at that?
This cool coaching example is important because it comes from an unorthodox source, an adult and not a friend. The cool coaching ultimately prompts Carrie to go to prom. Though prom ends up a disaster, going to it is something Carrie wouldn't have had the courage to do otherwise. The 1975 film Cooley High defines what is and isn't cool at the beginning of the film. Main character Preach has a lot of pride about his poetry. He sees a bright future moving to Los Angeles to study screenwriting. His friends, however, don't see that same future and look down on his goals.
What you doing going in my notebook?
Scholarly article Constructing the Cool Wall by Daniel Bowen did research on what is and isn't cool. High school students generally have the ability to define what is cool based on their own parameters as a group. In this case, writing poetry definitely wasn't one of them. Preach's friends try to cool coach him to behave like them instead.
Please can I leave the room, Gav? Yes. And it's Thackeray. Oh, yes, Gav.
Bullying is a recurring theme in high school films, and it has evolved throughout the years from a light-hearted subject matter to a rather serious one. In these selected films, the characters bullied are all seen as others or outsiders. In Grease, the T-Birds take pleasure in torturing Eugene. Eugene, although athletic, is labeled as a smart, nerdy kid, the complete opposite of them. We see the students' treatment of Eugene as comical, but prefer to laugh along with the other characters of the film as their actions and resulting consequences appear to be humorous and nonviolent, though they are.
All couples must be boy-girl.
Too bad, Eugene.
Like the teachers, the audience is encouraged to turn a blind eye to such bullying rather than take action against it. In Carrie, however, the trend changes. Carrie's the shy, weird religious girl at school who, under her mother's control, is not allowed to participate in the social atmosphere of high school. Carrie's bullying is omnipresent at school by her peers, but it occurs at home as well. Bullying takes a significantly darker tone in this film, causing viewers to side with Carrie despite her violent retaliation towards her peers. She cannot escape her oppressive upbringing, as she has never known anything else. In contrast to peer bullying, To Sir with Love exemplifies student bullying directed towards authority figures. The inner-city students attack new teacher Mr. Thackeray simply for being a teacher, a symbol of authority. As an educated, middle-class adult amongst a class of high school working-class students, Thackeray is automatically categorized as the outsider by his students. He's then the easy target for adolescent pranks and teasing. The conflict between the students and the teacher also relied on masculinity. Brought up by hand, A Secondary Education in the 50s by Stephen Wade states that high school men in the 50s in England had trouble proving their own masculinity, so they tried to redefine manhood through machismo and being good at contact sports. The fact that Thackeray was the grown male figure in the film also adds to the conflict between him and Denham, as the latter is trying to prove himself and tries to show his strength over this male figure that he does not embody yet.
Where you been all last week?
Oh, I was homesick with the flu, Mr. Mason.
That's a lie.
Students Preach and Cochise of the 1975 film Cooley High have been known to cut class, much to the chagrin of their teacher, Mr. Mason, and without regard to past absences. It is later revealed that Mr. Mason holds the boys to stricter standards than the other faculty, believing Preach and Cochise to hold a higher potential in life than what others may assume.
I don't understand you, Jackson. You read poetry books and history books for fun. And you make the worst grades in 2 states. You didn't even try to make up the midterm you missed. Don't you want to graduate?
Don't much matter.
Of the 1967 film To Sir with Love, tension within the class peaks when the students' rebellious behavior leads Mr. Thackeray to finally lose his temper at the teens.
And those who stood by and encouraged her are just as bad. I don't care who's responsible. You're all to blame.
In 1955 film Rebel Without a Cause, 17-year-old protagonist Jim yearns for a strong father figure in a life controlled by his mother and grandmother. 16-year-old Judy is in constant struggle for her father's attention, and it is revealed that Plato has been all but abandoned by his family. Plato was arrested for shooting puppies on the same night Judy was arrested for violating curfew and Jim for plain drunkenness.
These dominant subject matters still continue today in the 21st century. However, it is on a wider platform called social media, the new digital era, where it does not matter where you come from, whether if you are poor, middle class, or upper class, high school students have many more ways to connect opposed from the 1950s to the 1970s. In this new day of era, high school bullying, school coaching, and general conflict and authority has not disappeared. It has become more publicized for the new millennial of high school.